always critical. You say don't be cynical. The cliff below this pinnacle. Inside of this life we will need a miracle. Delay, delay, delay. Delay, delay, delay. To change. Our debating, accelerating, and complicating, pollinating. Delay, delay, delay. Delay, delay, delay. Wait, wait, wait. My song tastes like a flower with nectar, sweetened by conscious power. Melodies, this just might be the hour for building and toppling of the tower. But we delay, 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 delay. Wait and wait and wait another day. Procrastinating is not negating.
Greetings, and welcome to the Motherless Child Podcast. I am your host, Nadia Divine. So, as we are journeying through our healing process through grief, I always want to share episodes and stories that deeply resonate with some of my experiences through this process. So today's episode, we're covering parenting, why we grieve, which is parenting through the pain. As most of you know, I do have a 7-year-old. He is autistic. So that in itself has its own challenges. But then you put on top of that grieving my beloved mother. And a lot of times it gets to be a little bit too much. I can say that I have been pushing through. I am a warrior, so I have this warrior spirit where I'm able to just, push through challenges and push through obstacles. I just have had to do that since I was a child. And so there's no woe is me type of mentality here. So I don't want to come off as if there is, feel sorry for me or anything like that. But I do want to help any other mothers who could be experiencing some of the pain and trauma that I've experienced this past year. So grief in itself is all-encompassing, right? It's a deeply personal experience, and it can impact literally every aspect of our lives, and that is including the way we parent. Oftentimes, when you're in your grief, you could be one or two things, or you can be a few other things that I may not have on the list, but you can be neglectful, you can be, maybe a little condescending, maybe mean. Those are all aspects that come out, because if you were like me, where your main support system or support source is no longer here, it now leaves everything on you. And I always used to say that I'm not a single mother. Ramsad and I were together for a very long time. We were engaged at one point in time. However, I realized that I didn't think it would be the most healthy marriage, and not because he wasn't a good person, but I believe that you have to have really good examples on how to be a good wife and to be a good husband. And I can say that I don't think neither one of us had those examples. And so I just thought that it would be an extremely hard process to create a family, knowing that we both had so much work to do. So we remain friends. There's no animosity there. He's an amazing father. He absolutely loves his son, and I could never take that from him. So no, I'm not a single mother. I am a single woman. But there has been some changes with our relationship as well. I think I covered this in the very first episode where we talked about the backstory of what happened to my mom and everything. But I didn't get a chance to really dive into what happened to Ram's dad and why that part of the support system is no longer here as well. So Ram's dad was sentenced to some prison time last year, right after my mom's death, or actually, before my mom's death. He was sentenced to prison. And it was really a major shock for all of us because, like I said, he's a really good support system, a really good dad. And I didn't really have to do much when it came to everyday maintenance of our son. I worry about the therapy, the schooling, the IEPs, all of that good stuff. But when it came down to things like clothes or toys or, swim lessons, all these different things, I wasn't really the main source to worry about. That was his dad's thing. Like, I'm not really a big clothing shopper or anything like that, but his dad absolutely loved to. They went riding at times for hours at a time, always went out of town, went shopping. Literally, Ram was spoiled by his father. And I was grateful for that. Although, a lot of people were like, well, you're not together, and do you ever long for a relationship? And I'm a individual, and relationships for me are different. I like a lot of space. I like for us to have our individual hobbies and individual things that we do alone and things that we do together. And the reason why Ram's dad and our relationship worked so well is because we had that space. We had that time to be individuals. Many of you guys know that I participate in pageants. It's another love of mine, and he was always supportive with that as well. So I can't say, anything bad about Ram's dad because he is a good person and he loves his son dearly. So I was really shocked to lose my mom and to lose him within weeks of each other. And losing him, if I had my mom, I was able to kind of push through that a little bit, like, okay, hopefully he'll get out due to a technicality or something of that nature. But I have my mom, right? Whenever I have, personal appearances to do or other things that I need to do, I always have her to kind of fall back on and make sure that Ram is taken care of and looked after. And so when I got the call, I think at that moment, I felt like my life was over. I felt like now this is a burden that I will have to carry on my own. And I'm not saying that my son is a burden, but I never really wanted children. I just never really had a desire for it. And I think every parent that I saw, when I was during my time as being a principal, every parent that I saw was always stressed out. They were always worried. And I always tried to ease that worry and ease that pain or ease that, or whatever they may be experiencing when they drop their kids off to me. But I could always see it. I could always see that there was an underlying worry when it came to their children. And so I was like, I don't know if I ever want to do this. I don't know if I ever want to be a mother, a sole caregiver to a child. I always wanted to be a mother to many. And that was just always my thing, and so I started the private school with my mom, and I absolutely love it. I would say that was the best time of my life. That was the most, I don't know, fulfilling or purposeful time during my life is working with those kids, and all of those kids had IEPs. So all of them had issues or things that needed to work through, and that didn't stop me. That did not stop me from offering them all that I could give them. And so towards the end of of the year, with the private school, we had to shut down. I covered that more in the first episode. But this is when I found out that I was pregnant. And I was not happy. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. This is called the true unfiltered story, or the unfiltered true story. So I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I was not happy. I love my son deeply. I just wasn't ready for that. I was 33 at the time, and, just had to close down something that was near and dear to my heart, which was the private school. And now I'm going to embark on another journey that I have no clue about. And so I remember going through the pregnancy like, I don't know if I want to do this. Well, you got to do it now, right? He's here. And I remember my mom telling me, like, you're my firstborn, and you're the one that I definitely want to have grandchildren by. And I don't think she meant it in any negative way, but she just know how strong-willed I am, and how hands-on I am with the kids at the school. So she just knew that I would just be a great mom. And she was just like, I can't wait for my grandchild. And she was just so excited about it. My sisters, they were so excited about it. Ram's dad was over the moon about it. And I felt like I was the only one that wasn't excited, And so as I watched my body change, and, that in itself was something else to kind of go through as well. I was just like, wow, like, my stomach is getting bigger, and, just different, the pregnant women or moms out there know the changes that our bodies experience through that time. And so I just was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. I think for the first 6 to 7 months, I was still in shock. And that's a long time to be in shock, but I was really in shock during that time. And I just was like, well, if I do have a child, please let it be a girl, right? I just have a thing for girls. I absolutely love girls and doing girly things. And me and my nieces are really close. I pick them up pretty often, and we always hang out because I just absolutely love hanging out with girls. I'm a girl's girl, right? And so I remember one night we took, it was like a CVS test. I guess you get you pee in the cup and you shake it up, and it'll turn either pink or blue based off of the gender. And so I already came up with a name for my baby. Her name was going to be Anubia. And, so as we were referring to the baby, we would say Anubia. And I remember Ram's dad would introduce me to his friends, or, new people that would come by. And he's like, this is Anubia's mom. And I'm like, hi, it was just, I just love the name. And I was like, she's going to be just like me. She's going to have a personality, a bubbly personality. She's going to be fun. She's going to be, maybe meticulous, because I do have that part. I'm a Virgo rising, so I'm very meticulous in things that I do. And so I just knew that we were going to be great friends. I was super excited. And so I remember taking that test, and I was like, I already know what she's going to be, so it doesn't even matter. And when I went back into the bathroom to get the test, it was blue. And I can tell you, I cried for days. I mean, I was absolutely devastated. What am I supposed to do with a boy? Boys are different. They're in many cases gross, right? They're just, I don't even know how to identify with a boy. I'm about to be a boy mom. This is just not what I asked for. And so I was really upset for a long time. And I remember Ram's dad just being so excited. Like, he was just jumping up and down, and yes, he already had a name for him. He was like, his name is going to be Ramses. And I was like, Ramses? Like, he's really into Egyptian names. And so his first son's name is Osiris. Many people know him as YK Osiris. His sister's name is Isis. And then there's another sister named Armani. And then, of course, now there's the Ramses. Ramses the Great. And so it grew on me. I was like, I can do this. And so as we got closer to the delivery date, I was doing a lot of hardcore moving. I had, of course, shut down the school, so I had to get all of those materials from the school and put them into a storage. And so that was like one aspect. And then I was moving out of my current apartment in with Ram's dad and his grandmother. And so I had to pack all those things up and get those ready, everything ready to move. And I remember the very last day, well, right when it was time for me to give birth, I actually wasn't having any type of contractions or anything. The Braxton Hicks, those come and go, but not too alarming. And I remember getting the last few things out of the truck to go into the house, and there was intense pain. And I was like, well, maybe this will go away. Maybe this is just the contractions that they were telling me about. Now, mind you, I have a very high tolerance for pain. Most women do. And so I slept through the night, but I remember having to go from the bathtub to the bed, from the bathtub to the bed, because I was trying to get some type of relief from the pressure. And I remember, like, I have to go to work in the morning, so you can't come today, Ram. I got things to do. And that morning, the contractions kind of got, a little quicker. And I was like, okay, I think I should call someone. And I remember calling a friend at the time. And I was like, hey, my bag wasn't even packed. To tell you that how much I wasn't ready for this, my bag wasn't packed. And I called and I was like, hey, what are you supposed to have in your overnight bag? And so she just gives me all this list of things, and Ram's dad is gathering all these things and putting it into the overnight bag. And I'm like, oh, I think he's coming, And she's like, well, keep us posted. Let us know when you get to the hospital. And so I had a doula. Thank God. Shouts out to Delina, my doula. She was amazing. And I remember calling her and I said, hey, I think it's time. I think it's time. So she was going to head to the airport, to the hospital, and we were going to meet. And I remember saying to Ram's dad, like, I hope that he does not come tomorrow. Because ironically, Ram's birthday is September 6th and Osiris's birthday is September 7th. And so I'm a stickler for birthdays, and I like people to have their own birthdays. So I was like, you better come today and not tomorrow, because I need you to have your own birthday. Do not come on your brother's birthday, because you want your own. And so that was like the conversation we were having on the way to the hospital. And I remember getting to the hospital, and Ram's dad was like, I'll be back. So he just kind of dropped me off to my doula and was like, I'll be back. I got something to do. I'm like, hold up. Are you kidding me? But I was in so much pain at the time that I just couldn't even like argue back and forth with him. I was like, okay, whatever. Delina was there, so it worked out perfectly. So I got to the hospital, and they, of course, checked me, and they were like, oh, great, you're already 7 centimeters. So I think 6 or 7 centimeters when I got to the hospital. She was like, good job, Mom. And I was like, yeah, I took the pain as best I could. I just couldn't take it anymore. So she asked me then if I wanted the epidural. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, because I don't even know what to expect. So I had just enough time to get that done. I would say I was in labor for about 5 or 6 hours, really short labor. And Ramses came, and all was well. I think he was 6 pounds, 7 ounces. He was born at 6:41 p.m. We got to the hospital around 10 or 11, I think. So it was all good. It was a really quick thing. I was like, wow, that's it? after everything, I was like, that's it? Oh, wow, that's pretty cool, And so I was fine, I think, all the way up until the 3rd day when it was time to go home. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like my life has completely changed. And now I have to take home this baby, and I don't even know what to do. And I can't believe they're sending me home by myself. And I think I had just a mini breakdown. And the nurse came in. At one point, I was, smiling, cracking jokes. And then the next point, I was like face covered in tears. I was boohoo crying. And I remember her saying, what was wrong? What is wrong? You know, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she was like, you'll be fine. You know, he doesn't know that you don't know what you're doing. Like, you know, all he knows is that you're his mom and you're going to give him good love and care and you'll be fine. And she was right. I was fine. You know, I kind of grew into it after a while. It became second nature, you know, caring for him and just making sure everything was, that he was safe and healthy. And it just came as a second nature, you know, when they say women are nurturers in many aspects, the nurturing may not look the same, but it's all there, right? It's a quality that most women possess. So fast forward, when he turned 3 or 4, that's when we start to notice different things with him. You know, he didn't have a fight or flight mode. He wasn't really fearful of anything. Just other little things that we've noticed. And so, of course, I brought up the concerns to his doctor. And at first they said, well, you know, it's just developmental delay. He'll catch on. And then I started to get more tests ran. And that's when we determined that he did have autism. And, you know, with me having such experience with working with IEPs with my students, I was like, God, how could you have me have a school full of special needs kids only to have my own special needs child? At first I was like, is this some type of curse? You know, like what's behind this, you know? And as as me and Ram start to grow and he started to age and things like that, I realized that I was the perfect mother for him because of my experience and because of my background, because of my passion and because of my unwavering understanding. I was the perfect mother for him. I can see why he chose me. And so it started to make sense. But I did need a lot of assistance, a lot of help. And my mom and Ram's dad were just, the two dynamic duo that just made it a lot easier for me. There was always challenges and there was always days where I felt like I couldn't do it, but having both of them kind of helped me maneuver through it. And so losing my mom, I think I think my whole life flashed before my eyes because I was like, well, what is the next 20 years going to look like without her? What am I going to do? Because, my sisters, they are there to support, but I don't rely on them a lot because they have their own kids. My youngest sister just had her first child. And my middle sister just had a set of twins. And so now she has 5. And so I just don't ever feel like putting burdens on them when it comes to Ram. And so I try to, find outside sources. So realizing that my mom's not going to be here for us anymore, realizing that his dad is sentenced to 13 years. So that's, pretty much half Ram's life. What am I going to do? And so depression did start to seep in. I mean, deep depression. I was thinking about, well, maybe I could, as he get older, because realizing that I'm raising a male child, the biology is different, right? And how they learn is different. How they react to certain things are different. The testosterone that comes in, I will have to deal with that. All of this alone. And I'm like, I can't do it. So at one point I started looking up like, well, maybe I can find him a military group home or boarding school. As he gets about 12 or 13, I can make sure he goes to this boarding school and get the male instruction that he needs since his dad is gone. Because dating has never been a desire of mine since me and his dad broke up. I'm real particular about the people that I surround myself with. And I just never really wanted a new male around my son. Right now he's very impressionable. Sometimes you don't know what people's motives are. And so dating just wasn't ever on the radar. So a lot of people were like, well, you meet a guy and he can help out with Ram. Yeah, that's not his responsibility, right? If I meet a guy, I meet a guy. And that's not, I'm not expecting him to be a father to Ram because Ram has a father. I'm not looking to replace Ram's dad at all. So let me just not, let me not even entertain that, And so I just didn't think that I'd be able to make it without my mom and Ram's dad. I just relied on them a lot. And if you know me, I'm super independent. I try not to rely on anyone or anything for anything, right? But I just knew that it was going to be a challenge without them. And so, I was trying to find counseling for Ram because that's a double blow for him as well. Not only for myself, but for him, not having a grandmother that you saw, a lot, to not having your father, those are two things that are changes, that I just knew that was going to be a struggle for him. So I was trying to find therapists for him. And like I said, he's nonverbal. So that was a challenge in itself. And I just couldn't find anyone. No one was versed, dealing with nonverbal kids. So again, I wasn't able to find him the help that I felt that he needed. And so again, hit with more challenges, more things to overcome. But we made it. We got through that aspect of that period of time. And so one thing that I realized with dealing with my grief and dealing with Ramsey's autism is that I had to maintain a routine and I had to maintain some type of stability because things were changing so rapid around us. I had to be the one to maintain that everyday routine. And I think it's easy for me because I am a fixed sign. And so I typically already have a routine that I kind of follow automatically. But I had to keep a sense of normalcy for him. And that was whether he, went to school every day, then he went to therapy, then I would pick him up at the same time every day. It was just the small things that I had to keep normal. And it was hard a lot of times getting out of bed to even, get him dressed for school and get myself ready for the day. I just lost, I would say, a complete longing for living. I lost it with my mom. I did not want to keep going at all. I missed her to my core. I was angry to the person who did this. And I was angry. Then anger flew over to his father because it was like, now you're away and you can't help. So it was a lot of anger and animosity that I was carrying around with me on a daily basis. But I knew that my son, it wasn't his fault, right? He didn't ask to be here. He didn't ask for any of these things to happen to him. But he had to have someone in his corner that was going to be there. And so that was me. I had no one else to rely on. I had no one else to ask for help. And so I had to show up for him. And the main thing of showing up for him was really just keeping that routine going. I mean, it was days that it was literally the same monotonous thing every day, but I had to keep that going for him. And so that's kind of how we got through the first few months of losing my mom. It's just, every day going to the bus and going to after school and things like that. And then another thing I tried to work on was building a support system. Like I said, I try not to ask my sisters too much for help because they have their own thing going on. And so sometimes your village is not necessarily blood. Your village is people that support you and that you can pull together in your time of need. And so one thing about me is I never want to ask for help, or I would say not even ask for help, but I would say reciprocity in my part, in my mind, is law, right? You give and you receive. So anytime I did ask for help, I made sure that I was giving something in return for that. And so I started to slowly build my support system. I remember school starting back, and Ram had a teacher there last year that was really good with working with him. She was stern yet loving, and that's the combination that my son must have. And so I remember telling her what we experienced. And she said, if you ever need me for anything, please call me. Do not hesitate to ask me for anything, because I'm going to be here for you during this time. And she told me about how she lost her mother and she lost her son. And we really opened up to each other during that time. And I think she was brought to me for a reason. And so while she was there, I never had to worry about getting a call from school about Ramsey's acting up or not doing something. I could actually rest in knowing that he was going to have a good day with her there. And it was a sense of like, wow, like I can do what I need to do today and not have to worry about him. And that was, now I saw, as we talked about in the beginning of the episode, how parents were, I always saw that worry in them. And I wanted to take that worry away. She did that for me as I did that for them. And so now everything is starting to come full circle. And I'm like, wow, I get it now. I get the worry that they had. And so she was really good with offering me the assistance, and to the point where she would get Ram on weekends. I would pay her, I would cash app her. I'm like, I'm not sending you over here with no money. Like, Black moms know we don't send our kids away without no money. So I made sure she had money and everything, all his food and self-care items. He had everything. She's like, you don't have to bring all of this stuff when you drop him off. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't want you to have to go to the store for anything. He's a picky eater. These are the things that he eats, and so I was just really big on that. And so she was a part of my village. And I was like, well, now I'm actually starting to form a village outside of my family. And, she's someone who's with Ram every day. She knows him, and she lost her son. So now this is an opportunity for her to pour her love into another child. And it just worked great, and so still to this day. So I told her, I was like, you're Ram's God's mom. Like, you're his God mom, because, you stood in the paint for me when I needed you most. And I didn't even have to ask. And I'm forever grateful for her for that. So that was her. Then I was able to, his after school teacher, Ram had been going to her for a while. And I remember when I used to have problems with him last year at school year, she would go and pick him up. Like, I'm like, hey, he's having a problem. I can't leave work. And she was like, I'm going to go get him. So sometimes she would have to pack up all the other kids, and they would ride to go pick up Ramses. And so she began to step up and let me know how much she was there for me. And she would, keep Ram for days while, I grieved. I remember dropping him off during the summer at that time, because this happened last summer. I remember dropping him off in tears, like barely being able to get out the car to sign him in. And she was like, no, I got him. Just go home and lay down. And she would call and check on me. And so I was like, my village is coming together. And it's a shame that it had to come together in the midst of tragedy, but sometimes that's just how it happens. And I am forever grateful to those two women. I will always honor them for being there in my time of need. And like I said, sometimes your village doesn't consist of blood. Sometimes it doesn't even consist of people that you know or that you have known. Sometimes it's people that you haven't given the opportunity to show up for you. And that's just been my experience. And I'm forever grateful to the people that God has placed into my life. So parenting through your grief, like I said, it requires trying to maintain a routine and stability for your child, building a great support system for anyone that shows up for you. Make sure that you give to receive. It's one thing I always live by, is to give to receive. Even if they don't ask, you give that to them. And also, I have to understand that grief in parenthood is a multifaceted thing, okay? This is something that we're going to be going through for the rest of our lives, for Em and I. We're going to be working through this for the rest of our lives. It's not going to be a cut and dry, oh, we're healed. No, it's going to be a lifelong journey for us. And I understand that. And now that I know that those two things, having a support system, having a routine, are two of the bases for us to get through it. As long as I can keep those two things, I will be fine. He will be fine. And so now, my son, I think he's starting to realize that Granny is not coming back. He brings me her pictures at times, or her blanket that she used to use. He will bring that to me. And I think that's a way of him saying, hey, where's Granny? I kind of miss her. And so I've incorporated time where we actually sit and we talk to her. I've created an altar for her and my grandmother. And me and him, we sit and we burn ancestor money. We talk to her. We pray. We burn candles for her. And although he doesn't understand it, I think eventually he will understand it. And I'm hoping that by me doing that with him, as he get older, he will do the same. He will continue to show homage to them. He will continue to celebrate their lives and to find creative, meaningful ways to, celebrate their memory. I have a strong belief that he will continue that. Because although he can't speak and he knows how to communicate in other ways, I believe that he still has that relationship with her. I put pictures up of her in his room, and I just know when he looks at her, he remembers the love that she gave him. And I hope and pray that he holds that near and dear to him for the rest of his life. I can only imagine how it feels to lose your father and your grandmother in the same year. But he's a strong one. He works through his pain in other ways. And, sometimes he can be a challenge for me, but I have to realize that I don't have to do this alone anymore. I have a village now, and I have to open my mouth and ask them for help when I need it. And please know that I do. I do. I ask them for help when I need it. But I just wanted to share that part of my story with you, so you understand that grief is something that we will be working through for the rest of our lives. It's something that may get easier as we age, but it will never go away. It will never go away. And I decided to use my pain in sharing my story because reliving this, talking to you guys also brings up feelings. But I've decided to relive my pain with you, hoping that this will help someone else get through it. They say anything you put on the internet is always there. And so you may not be going through grief right now, but you can always come back to this channel if and when griefs hit you and hear my story, and maybe it will give you some type of solace, some type of motivation to continue to go on. Because honestly, I thought that my life was over the day that my mom died. I had no desire to continue life. But the way the Creator designed it for me is He knew, or she knew, it's like what I like to say, she knew that I needed a reason to keep going. And I often say, well, if Ram's dad never would have went to prison, I probably would have checked out, because I would have known that Ram would have been fine with his father and I don't need to continue to be here. So the Creator designed it for me to be his sole caregiver, to give me purpose to continue and to keep going. And I think about that often, even from the beginning where I didn't want children and I didn't want a boy, to now this child and this boy has saved my life. And I'm forever grateful to the decision I made that day to keep him. I'm forever grateful to my mom, who showered me with love while I was pregnant. I'm forever grateful to my doula. I'm forever grateful to Ram's dad, because this baby saved me. And I don't know if I would have ever been able to get through this grief without him giving me meaning. And I was discussing with a friend on Facebook about this movie called Predestination. It's a really good movie. You got to check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. And in the movie, the main character is this woman named Jane. And she meets a guy at the bar, and she starts to tell her story of how she went from Jane to John. And in her story, she talked about her upbringing and how, she grew up in the foster care system and she was always different from everyone. And she just went through all of these challenges, and how, she never met true love until one day she met this guy and he disappeared, but she came up pregnant, which was never her desire to have children, right? Now she's pregnant, and the course of her entire life changed from that very moment. And without trying to, spoiler alert, do not want to tell the movie, but it was such a great movie because it talked about how she was her own mother, her own father. She fell in love with herself. You have to, maybe I'm not explaining it right, but you got to see the movie so you can understand the concept. Basically, we create these timelines for ourselves before we even come to this planet Earth, before we even come down in this meat suit. We create these timelines for ourselves because our higher self knows what we're going to need. If you think about that, our higher selves knows what we're going to need during this lifetime, during this timeline that we came down for. And so we always ask, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And I remember Jane in the movie said the rooster. And to me, that has a deeper meaning. It's my soul, right? My soul knows what's going to happen while I'm here. I may not have any clue, but my soul knows the things that I'm going to experience on this path. And it gives me every single thing that I need, or it directs me in the way that I should go so that I can have what I need when I need it. So I think about when I got pregnant, how I said, I didn't want any kids because I saw how worried the parents were when they dropped their babies off to me. And fast forward 7 years later, I experienced that same worry, but this baby, right? This baby has kept me. This baby has pushed me past limits that I didn't even know I had. And my higher self knew that this baby was going to save my life. This baby was going to save my life to continue to save others or to help others along my path. Because if I would have checked out on August 5th, 2023, my work wouldn't have been done. There's still more work for me to do. There's still more people for me to touch. And without my son, it wouldn't have been possible. So I think my oversoul is what they call it. I think my oversoul every day for these challenges, for my son, for his father, and for my mother, because this is a part of my journey. And I still don't know where this journey is going to lead, but I'm open and I'm ready. And I'm focused on healing and walking this road of healing, because I know it is a life journey. But I know each day I get stronger and stronger. And no matter how many obstacles are thrown my way, I have a warrior spirit I get from my mother. My mother never gave up. In my book that I'm writing currently, Broken Hearts and Shattered Crowns, I talk about my mom's story a lot and talk about some of the things that she's experienced through life that molded her to who she was and the decisions that she made. But she overcame so many things that I know that I can too, because of her story. And that will be out on pre-sale very soon, guys. So be on the lookout for the book, for the memoir. But I just wanted to share my personal story, to offer you a compassionate space to find solace and strength if you're in your grief as well. Remember that your babies need you, but you need them. We're interconnected. And it's just a beautiful way to think of what I needed 7 years ago. I didn't know I needed until 7 years later. I think that's an amazing, amazing way of understanding life, right? Understanding how everything happens. And that it happens for a reason. People say that all the time. And I used to say, stop saying that. But there is no coincidences in this lifetime. I was meant to give birth to Ramses in the time that I did, because I would need him. I would need him to continue to push through. And he would need me to do the same. So I wanted to leave you guys with that. Definitely go check out Predestination. You will enjoy it. If you have a sci-fi mind and an eye to see, you will absolutely enjoy the movie. And I want you to reflect on the movie after it's over. Reflect on how in your own life you could have created different timelines. The higher self of you created one aspect, and your lower self could have created another. Have the wisdom and the wherewithal to know how everything is connected and how that impacts your life moving forward. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Mother List Chat podcast. Remember, if you want to confirm to share your story with someone else during their time of grief, if you've lost your mother or your daughter and you're still looking for justice, that's the reason this podcast was created, to search and fight for justice for you and your family. Because remember, where there's no justice, there can never be peace. Good night.
Our time is critical. You say don't be cynical. The cliff below this pinnacle. Inside of us, like we will need a miracle. tastes like a flower with nectar, sweetened by conscious power. Melodies sing, this just might be the hour for loving and toppling of the tower. But we delay, 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 wait and wait and wait another day. Procrastinating is not locating. Degrading and mass migrating. Delay, delay, butterflies, these hummingbirds, we are more than natures. Clarion call, music makers, but we delay, delay, delay.